Hey everyone, welcome back to Maple Syrup Gaming and Tech. So we're going to be doing another retro clean repair today, and we're going to start calling this series Retro Rescue, basically because the point is taking broken or unwanted games because of either cosmetic or functional defects and bringing them back to working order. And it'll be sort of easier for you guys who follow the channel to also know which videos fit into which category if you like following, the different series I'm doing. So today what we're going to be looking at is fixing a couple of basic cosmetic defects on some NES carts. Now there's two ways to approach this, and we're going to look at both ways in this video. First of all, here are the two games we're going to be working on. These are two classic games. So one is Battletoads. The second one is Super Mario Brothers, the original game. So you'll be getting close-up views on the screen right now so that you can see in what kind of exact shape these carts are. So the labels are in really bad shape. For the Mario Brothers, there's even a corner missing. For Battletoads, well, it's pretty much almost all scrapped, although you can make out which game it is. Now, the two ways we're going to go about this. For Mario, we're going to be keeping the original cart. We're just going to be flipping it to a custom homemade label. And for Battletoads, because the cart itself is in actually worse shape overall, we're actually going to be doing a full reshell. Meaning we're still going to be using a custom label, but we're going to be reshelling the cart into a basically aftermarket shell. Now, before we get started on this, views are different on what I'm going to do today. A lot of people don't like removing the labels from original carts, even if they're damaged, just because they find that it's sort of, making a classic game worse, or that you're destroying a classic game. So that's why I'm showing you both methods. If you choose the reshell, what's really fun is you can keep the original shell in its original condition. However, if you choose to remove the label and change it, well, obviously the original cart is going to be diminished in a certain sense because you're going to be destroying the original label even further. That's why I'm going down both routes, and whichever you choose is a personal taste and personal views and how you look at your collection. Me personally, I use either method depending on the state of the overall cart, but without further ado, what we're first going to do is Battletoads actually needs a cleaning as well. So we're going to do a quick clean on this one. If you want to see further details on exactly the cleaning process I use, please look at the video in my channel. I have a very detailed description of how I do my cleanups. For you guys, it's going to be sped up for today. And then we're going to get back to reshelling the cosmetic carts. So I'll catch you guys after the cleaning. So, as that Battletoads PCB was actually quite a bit of work. I wasn't expecting it to be in such poor condition, just because the game was actually perfectly functional even before I tested the game before I started recording the video. So I didn't expect the PCB to be in great shape considering what the case was looking like, but I really didn't expect it to be as in bad shape as it was. So as you saw, I went straight to the Brasso in the video, which is something I really don't use very often on PCBs, just because it's a little bit harsh on the metal. And even with the Brasso, as you saw, it really took the WD-40 to get most of the corrosion off. And there's actually still a little bit left on the traces, but I don't want to scratch too hard, because if we break one of the traces, you'll wind up in worse shape than you started. But so as you saw, it was quite a bit of work. So now, without further ado, let's get to the reshelling of the game, and we'll move on after that. We're going to start with the complete reshelling, as it's the preferred solution, as I said, to a lot of people, because it doesn't destroy the original case of the game, and you can always keep that aside to prove to someone without opening the game that it is a 100% original game. So without further ado, let's get to the reshelling, and you know, it's a simple process, but it's fun to see nonetheless. So here we are with our aftermarket shell. Now, what's really fun, you can pick up these shells pretty much everywhere. You have eBay, you have AliExpress, and you have some other vendors like, you know, retro special vendors that you can pick up these shells at. And most of these shells, what's really fun is that with most Nintendo PCBs, if you're worried that you don't know which way to put it in, most shells will actually not let you put in a PCB the wrong way around. You see, it just doesn't fit. But if your PCB is one of the ones that really isn't engineered to not let it fit in the wrong way, because there are some PCBs that are cut off that basically don't have this sort of prevention system. Basically, what you want to make sure is that this is the front of the shell. You want to make sure that the side of the PCB with the chips on it is facing the front. And for one like this, it fits in perfect without having to use any effort at all. Then it's a simple process of closing the shell. Now, normally, Nintendo uses game bit drivers, but a lot of these, secondary shells use normal Phillips head screws. Some people say to reuse the screws from your original Nintendo cart to give it a little bit more authenticity. I actually choose the opposite. The reason why is because I've already had problems with some of these aftermarket cases where the thread size is actually different than the original Nintendo thread size, and the screws have actually damaged the aftermarket cart, making it basically unable to fully close after that. So I prefer using the screws that come with it. Either way, most of these aftermarket carts, especially if you chose a green color like mine, since I knew this was going to be a Battletoads cart, it's going to be pretty obvious that this is an aftermarket cart, and you're not really trying to get authenticity. You're just trying to make your cart look pretty, and basically, bring an old cart that was sort of not really worthy to be in a collection to be sort of a maybe conversation piece. People will be asking you, is it a repro, stuff like that. So once we have our cart closed, it's a simple process of choosing an image that you like that represents the game in question. And honestly, if you go online and you type NES label, basically you'll have a lot of the title of your game, you'll have a lot of images that people have made, or you can choose like me and modify one that was pre-made and add the extra backwards writing so that it goes over the side. And if you type NES label template, you'll be able to find a template to make sure that the sizing is right on your label. Now, when applying the label, I always line it up at the top first. Roll it over the side, and then bring it down to the front. And there we have our brand new aftermarket Battletoads cart. And personally, I think it's looking pretty snazzy. It's one of those images that I find would even be better than the original one, although the original one has the flair of just being classic. So that's the pretty easy process of completely reshelling an NES game. It's actually easier than the second process we're going to do. The only difference is that this is going to cost you an aftermarket cart, which are around $5 on average. So let's switch, and now let's just work on getting the label off of the Mario Kart. Okay, so here we are for the Mario Kart. Now for removing the label of the Mario Kart, one of the best ways I find is to take a heat gun, like this, or you can just use a regular blow dryer, and to heat up the label a bit. Now you don't want to go too hard. As I was saying, you don't want to get it too hot because you don't want to melt or damage the plastic, and especially if you're using a heat gun like I am, it's actually pretty easy to do so. And then you just start working at the corners and slightly peeling the label off. And if you've heated it, it'll generally come off pretty easy. You're going to want to be careful where it's actually damaged, because like you see, it doesn't really want to come off in one part at that place. It was damaged a little bit here at the top as well. So that place as well, we're going to have to be careful. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to do it in two parts. I'm going to leave the corner up there. We're going to peel it down here. Get this all off in one part. And then basically we're going to just reheat the top. And we're going to start working at it from that corner. So normally that should be more than enough. Yeah, it's coming off real nice now. See how it almost slides off on its own? Like I said, a little bit of heat really weakens the glue. Sometimes you need to give it a few seconds. Like I said, the only part that it really won't work on is a damaged section like that. And we're just going to scrape it off with our nail as best we can. And it doesn't need to be perfect because you're going to be putting a label over it anyway. But you want to make sure that the new label is going to properly stick. So, last little bit like that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of rubbing alcohol, spray it on, and that should weaken the rest of the glue. And there we go. Clean it off with a cloth. That's important if you are using rubbing alcohol to get it really all off before you try to put your new label back on. It's going to evaporate anyway, especially since the case is probably going to be a little bit warm still from using the iron or the And now, same thing as before. Now, I got this image off of the internet once again, modified it a little bit, called it Mario #1 instead, just to give it a little bit of different flair. And it's simple process, the same as Battletoads. We're just gonna line it up at the top. Make sure that it does the angle properly, and then just bring it down to the front and even it out. And there we go. We have some two beautifully reshoot. So I hope you guys enjoyed this session of Retro Rescue. And after a good hour of hard work, I think I deserve some relaxation, finishing off my beer, and a good game of Battletoads. So, as usual, thank you guys for watching, and I hope I'll catch you guys in my next video.